Productions on the track. What's up, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are the Political Junkies back at it again. I got my buddy Armani Oakley is in the building, and Johnny is back for the second time this week. I told him, hey, just a couple more times, and he could be officially a PJ. Get that PJ status up. We give him the jacket. I passed him. Oh, I don't even have my chain. We give him the chain. How Rockefeller back in the day used to have we give him the PJ chain. And Dave's already a PJ up in here. Thank you for calling from your car. I appreciate the diligence. So let me go around the horn. Armani, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I mean, it's a Monday, got the whole week ahead of us, so I'm ready to go.
Tell us about that new AKA you got.
Yeah, AKA cold-blooded progressive. I'm rocking my Jersey Devils today, repping Jersey hard. Okay. And if our governor wants to be a cold-blooded capitalist, well, I guess I just got to be a cold-blooded progressive. I don't have any other choice. So here we go.
I love it. I didn't send a memo to Johnny or Dave that I guess it's sports day on PJ because I got my Knicks shirt on. Next time. Johnny, how you doing, buddy?
What's up? No, I mean, a lot's happened since last week, so we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do got a lot. Dave.
Hey, everybody. Listen, I'm excited to be here. Yes, I'm in my car on a slightly abbreviated schedule, but I'm excited. David's not here, but we just dropped an episode of Call Me Limbo. You can find that Call Me Limbo pod.
Check that out.
Yeah,
that pod is fire. You gotta listen. I love it.
Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate that.
We're going to let Dave go at around 8:40. I know you got things to do, and I appreciate you coming on as usual. Always love your insight. And I want to announce to everybody that I got an interview with Shama Shawant. Let me bring this up here. Boom. Tomorrow at 8:15. So everybody, please come through. Check that out. We're going to have some interesting questions. I'm going to watch some interviews that she did in the past, and I've already watched a lot of interviews. I'm going to try to ask some questions that have not been asked before. So definitely come through and look for that. So let's get started. We're going to do a little rapid fire where we go through some tweets real quick. All right. So the first tweet in honor of having Shama come on the show tomorrow, I saw a tweet that she put out, and it says, let me bring it up here. Boom. It's kind of tiny, but I'll read it to y'all so you can. There we go. Landlords earn their fattest profits in low-income neighborhoods, nearly $300 per apartment, because even though mortgages and property taxes are much lower in poor neighborhoods, the rents charged there are only slightly lower. The difference is pure profit. So there, and this is from this Washington Post article where it says, "Why are Americans so poor?" And it's definitely right now just a squeeze of the working class people and the poor right now, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse. With me, I experienced surprise billing, that I could think that I'm saving some money, I'm starting to catch up on the bills, and then boom, out of nowhere get a $2,000 bill for an operation that a family member received. And the anesthesia, I thought already paid off this bill, but then the anesthesia bill came in for thousands of dollars. Like, where's this stuff coming from? All right. Let me see. Boom. Where Pergam, what's up, buddy? Good to see you in the chat. Now I'm going to show this tweet, and actually, let me play the video.
Yeah, right. You're right. You're here for me. Refer me. No. That's not. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this.
From across the room, you've been discriminating against me and discriminating against some people in the briefing room. And I'm saying that this is the U.S., this is not China, this is not Russia. This is not Russia.
Okay.
What you are doing, you are making a mockery of the first American.
Decorum, please.
It's been 7 months. You've not called on me. You've not my messages. I'm saying that that's not right. That's not right.
Fun times. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the press briefing room. Okay.
So I'm not going to play the whole thing, but basically, these are the cast from that show. I actually like the show, Ted Lasso, and they went to the White House for some some photo op. But basically, the guy in the audience, I think I forgot where he said he's from, but he said that she hasn't called on him in 7 months, and all this reminds me of is you see a lot of recently activists protesting Hakeem Jeffries, so they protest AOC, Jamal Bowman. These are a result of these representatives, this press secretary, not allowing an avenue for people to legitimately ask them questions. They wouldn't have to shout this out. They wouldn't have to get protested if they were. And people have their issues with Ro Khanna. The dude goes everywhere. I just posted something this past week that he was on a call-in answering questions, and we do have a lot of questions. We do have beef with him, but he was on the call-in answering tough questions. And I don't know. I haven't seen somebody have to protest him because he's proactively going to different places and answering the questions like how a representative should. Dave, let me go to you, buddy.
Yeah, I remember when this happened. It was something Sagar Andretti from Breaking Points was having a conversation with Crystal about, because he used to be in the press room, and it was around how it's structured. And I'm blanking on all the details, but it just really highlighted how insidious the corruption goes even in our media, because essentially you have the people who have the clout, like the New York Times, Washington Post, etc., and they essentially can set the agenda of who gets time to speak, who gets called on, along with the press secretary. And it does mean that essentially, if you're not screaming at the top of your lungs to the back of the room, you're very unlikely to ever get called on. And to me, it's one thing that he called it out, which I'm grateful for, and I hope it gets more attention. But what I find so disheartening is her response. It's almost like this one, you're looking at Ted Lasso on the stage, and it just feels like the celebrification of the press briefing room. Like, no disrespect, but it's like, why? We have a lot of serious things going on. But then to also, instead of her just answering or addressing his concern, she tries to paint him as if he's some wild lunatic just going on a unsubstantial rant. And it's really heartbreaking. And I think for me personally, what I've been learning more and more as I've been trying to become more politically engaged is just how well the media is how well they do this whole smear situation, or how they're able to control narratives in a way that, honestly, in my opinion, supersedes these politicians. They're on par with the corruption of the corporations to me, and I see them no differently on that playing field. But that's my thought.
No, definitely 100%. Johnny, I don't know if you were about to. Let me go to Armani. I see Armani jump in here.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, the way that establishment Dems kind of have the access to the bigger outlets, and they kind of strong arm all the smaller ones or independent ones that might ask them real questions and use those bigger outlets to basically put together whatever message they want. Like, it's a huge issue. But I think it's a weird place to be, because on some level, like that's what, like, the press secretary for the politician, that's like their job, is to make sure that, they're represented the best in the press. I think it's more of like an issue with the big press people and their editors and whoever they have, where they're not like actively doing their job as journalists and asking real questions, pushing, real issues, making things uncomfortable. They're just kind of there to, get that quote. And, I do know that some politicians with these big outlets, what they'll do, like if a big outlet does ask them a real question or challenges them in some way, what they'll do is they'll shut them down. So the next time that person has a big bill or something big that happens, and they send a press release out to different outlets, that elected official won't actually send the press release to that certain outlet, meaning that outlet won't be able to cover it, which means they won't get the readership, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it's just a very nasty game, because at the end of the day, like, the function of the media is to inform, and all of these, marketing, branding games that they're playing, it really just hurts the public at the end of the day.
So I'm gonna go to Johnny next, but I'm curious, as somebody that ran before, did you have a vision that, and even hopefully, I would definitely support you to run again if you do get in office. What's your vision as a representative to keep that connection to constituents, to citizens, like, how would you approach that?
I mean, I think the best way to actually, like, if you're the elected official, is to actually either go to events, community events, and actually talk to people. Make sure your office has good constituent services and other representatives in your district office. So when constituents come, they can interact with your office or with you if your schedule is open enough. And then also just communicating directly, having live streams, having IG lives, having, even if it's pre-recorded, just telling people what you're doing and putting it out on your social media or your website. I mean, I don't think especially when you're at that level, when you're at like a federal level like that, you can really communicate without the press, really, especially in these times, with all the social media and everything that people have. But I get why they do it, because, some folks just aren't highly online. You get the older folks, you get the donors. And on some level, it's legitimizing, unfortunately, like, to get into certain outlets, press outlets, it's like, oh, you're a big deal because you're in that. Like, I remember during my campaign when I was featured in Teen Vogue and I was featured in Daily Beast, and people were like, oh, like, this is somebody like to pay attention to, simply because of those outlets, never mind what I was running on or anything. That's, no shade to those outlets. I did, like, they're actually, they have good reporters who do actually challenge, but it's just a perception. Like, if you're in certain media outlets, people take you more seriously than if you're doing something independent.
Yeah, I seen Ro Khanna on MSNBC, Fox News, Fox Business, Callin, which is a new app that Brianna Joy Gray. That's how I met Day, actually, on Callin. Like, the dude, he was on Savvy Sab show. He was definitely on TYT. He was a justice. He became a Justice Democrat before they had any elected justice. The dude is just everywhere, and that's one thing I admire about him. I don't agree with all his politics, but I think representatives should try to answer as many questions, the tough questions, and make sure they're actively, because they're literally, that's what it's called, representative. They're representing their view. They should be letting us know what their view is. Johnny, let me go to you, and then I didn't expect us to be on this one for too long, but it was a good topic. Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, I ran too in my district for Congress.
Really?
And
as what party? I'm just curious.
Well, I started as an independent, but then the people that were supporting me, mainly Bernie people, this was in 2018. This is a very party-centric state. That's why they call it purple, because it's either Democrat or Republican. Even though what's his name, Jesse Ventura, ran and won, he kind of left a bad taste in people's mouths. So then everybody's like, independents suck. So we've had people run in third parties. They get like 1-2% of the vote. So the campaign, I structured the campaign like a cooperative, where it was democratically run by the campaign committee members, and they voted for us to enter the Democratic primary. So that's what we did. And I learned a lot. It was basically like the 2016, Bernie race against Hillary, only on a state district level, because the party structure, the delegates, all that was like exactly the same. This guy swoops in from Washington, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into details about my race, but the vision of communicating with your constituency, had you been elected, is, I was nodding my head over there, because whether there's town facilities, libraries, and everything that you go when you campaign to. Well, when you are back home, when you're not in Washington, you should just be going around the district, having these town halls and events and saying, okay, how's everything going? And then, like Imani said, is, if you do your own social media, there was a local, a city councilor who he would get out of the council meetings and he would give an update on his Facebook Live. That was when Facebook was still a thing. And, he would get live and he would say, okay, so here's where I stood, and here's what I did here. And so he's giving people, like you said, and like you said about Roe, I do respect that about him, is he's kind of a higher profile representative, and he's still willing to go on shows like The Vanguard, Savvy. I mean, lower subscriber, kind of grassroots shows that he's willing to sit and take some difficult questions at times. And, again, I'm mad at him. I don't agree with him on things. I'm a little upset with the whole thing, way things have turned out, and his capitulation to Biden and blah, 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 whatever. But I do respect that about him, that he's willing to show up, and that will always keep your voters engaged with you as a representative. So yeah, I do agree with that. Oh, I wanted to say on that topic of the guy interrupting is he's from Today News Africa, and what he was complaining about was in 70 press briefings he's never gotten called on, and the people up front, which will go into our topic about elitism, the people up front are saying, "Hey, just shut up back there." Literally proving his point, saying, we're all in this room together and you're interrupting, just shut up back there. And he's like, hey, I've been back here trying to ask my questions for 70 press briefings and I can't get anybody. Now, we don't know the whole story. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions, but basically that's kind of what he was saying, is that I'm not getting heard. And that is supposed to be what the media is for, even if it's a ridiculous question from that Ducey dude. He gets more questions than anybody, but it's because it feeds into that drama, right? That reality show that they want to create. Oh, look, and that here's another clip that we can make a fool out of Ducey, from Fox News. Let's let him ask his question, but not take a tough question from somebody who might be from a budding media company.
Yeah, I saw the other side, a camera that showed the other side of that room, and it looks like a small room compared to. I watched like some old footage of JFK. He was actually doing it because there was a time where those press, what they're called. It used to be the president answering the questions, not just a press secretary, right? Back in the day, JFK, and then he was in front of like a big auditorium. Because remember, like right now, even Bernie said it recently that like 90 or 80 or 90% of the media is consolidated to 8 big corporations. So that's how they can just have that small room. But before, in the past, it was a ton of independent or more mom and pops type of media organizations. So they had a lot more people who needed to be able to ask questions. It's just very interesting to see from the past to now where we are, and it doesn't seem to be going in a positive direction. So let's move on. Let me give a quick shout out to SG, PJ, Chris in the building, Janice Anderson, what's up, and German and Where Program, what's going on. So let's continue, and I want to give a shout out to this thread right here in this account because it's called African and Black History. I don't know how many people are familiar with it, but this one caught my eye. I just want to bring attention to, because I did not know about this. So apparently in America, we literally had African human zoos. I have to admit my ignorance on this. And it said here, Africans were kidnapped from Africa and brought to be exhibited in human zoos. Many of them died quickly. Here's a few pictures, and is a whole thread about it. And also in the Bronx Zoo. So this is as far back as 1906. This person, Werner, found a new home for Oda. Oda is the person in the picture at the Bronx Zoo. Like, I remember the Bronx Zoo was this big popular zoo in the New York area. And they literally at one point had human people there, unfortunately. I just want to do a quick throwback to this clip. I know I might depress some people.
41, and that drove me crazy. He was in Congress for years. He had one senator support him. Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to work with him. He got nothing done. He was a career politician. He did not work till he was like 41, and then he got elected to something. It was all just baloney, and I feel so bad that people got sucked into it.
So he got nothing done. And now we're here in 2023. And as much as people might have beef with Bernie, all I know is Schultz, the
what's the tweet say? She's going to hell.
Wow.
That's just screw
Bernie
it.
Single-handedly, the pharmaceutical companies just decreased insulin, and they said they're going to sell it at $30 now, which is a lot more. I think it was $300 before, just by the threat that Bernie said he was going to bring him before the help committee that he chairs. And then I forgot what's the Starbucks first name, but Schultz, whatever his name is, Schultz. And he just stepped down from the CEO of Starbucks early, just so that I think it's so that he doesn't have to testify before Bernie and his committee. So, and by the way, he's still in office. What's Hillary Clinton doing nowadays? What's she doing nowadays? In the woods? Is she still in the woods? But let me go to Armani on this one.
Yeah, establishment Dems love to say that. They love to say like, yeah, Bernie was there or these progressives are there and they get nothing done. But that's an indictment against establishment Dems. If the progressives in your party are not getting things done and the majority of people in this country agree with progressive policies, that just means you're not working for the people. That means you're blocking them on certain things and therefore blocking everyday people from getting what they need. It's a terrible own. It's just like, that's your fault. That's your own fault, especially in times when Republicans are not in control. So you're just saying, yeah, they get nothing done. You're essentially saying, yeah, we block them from getting things done for the people. It's a terrible own. It's a terrible take. I don't know why they keep doing it. Well, I mean, they're not that great at anything, but I mean, seriously, they just need to stop, number one. And then number two, man, I just wish I don't know what Hillary's problem with Bernie is. Like, it's like people liked him better. Like, do better. Just be better. And to say that he hasn't gotten anything done, and yet Bernie Sanders from one presidential run has completely shifted how this country thinks about policy, how we think about politics, how we think about pretty much the political spectrum, every single thing. He shifted that with one presidential run. I can't think of one thing Hillary Clinton shifted to that degree for all the years she was in politics. So just needs to give it a rest. Like, give it a rest, girl.
Go ahead, Day.
I was going to say she didn't shift anything in her 2 presidential runs. But what I would like, every time I see Hillary Clinton, like on a less substantive note, it just reminds me that Costco really has audacity and abundance and accountability and scarcity. Like, I have never seen someone consistently complain about why they lost and ascribe it to everybody but themselves. Like, there has been no self-reflection. And I think what bothers her probably even more is that milquetoast Joe Biden also won, and she just can't process that, because there's nothing. Notice that there's never a substantive critique about Bernie on a policy level. Like, Hillary, you literally could have won had you just pretended to get out there and speak in populist terms. Hey, you know what? You're right. Let's just give everybody college. Let's do this. Instead, you got in front of people and said, that sounds nice, guys, but it's just not realistic. Why do you think people would vote for you? Why do you think people would vote for you in states that you never stepped foot in? Like, it's a level of arrogance. And I think I get passionate about this topic specifically because as I've started volunteering and being more political, I get a lot of vitriol from Hillary Clinton haters. And I'm like, y'all, I voted for the woman in 2016. Like, I bit the bullet and did the thing. Like, why are you so mad? And they spew all these talking points, and it seems so detached from reality. It's almost like the way that they discuss Trump voters is almost the way that the I'm with her crew is. And it doesn't make sense to me, because it's like you have all this logic and can make all these critiques until it's time for you to recognize, put a mirror in your face. But maybe that's because she's the leader and she can't do it either. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Johnny, go ahead, buddy.
Just to recap on that, it's just about introspection, and look, I'm not gonna go into the history of Hillary, what happened, but I mean, she picked a pro-life running mate,
Tim Kaine. Yeah.
And they say she's a woman. They're talking about women's rights being under attack in the Supreme Court and all. She picks Tim Kaine, and she doesn't campaign. She won my state without my help. I didn't vote for her. I'm just going to be straight. Everybody knows that. I campaigned for Jill Stein, and she won my state anyway. But she didn't win those states that she didn't go to because she took them for granted, and she didn't have a message that was appealing to people. And like you said, Dave, being attacked by people every time you bring something up, the Still With Her crew, it's disheartening, because they're just like MAGA. They're the same mentality. It's the same locked up kind of, we only see it from this perspective, and most of it's not facts. They're operating on their emotional experience, and it's unfortunate, because it seems to be holding up more progress as we try to open up the dialogue about moving forward.
Armani,
I'll let you go.
Yeah, 100%. I think lack of introspection is really, really, really key here. And what you said about her running mate, like nothing about her campaign was inspiring. Nothing looked towards the future, right? Like, forget how you feel personally about Obama and his policy, right? There was something about that spoke to the future, that spoke to like hope and things that are out there. What we got with Hillary was just like regressive, really. Like after a campaign like that, after the first Black president, again, ignoring how you may feel about the policy he did or didn't do, that was the first time in history that happened. And yeah, she would have been the first woman, but at the time, the way she was running, like I remember whenever she was asked about, and at the time, like police brutality and issues around Black Lives Matter were like really, really, really hot. And whenever she would get asked about it, she would shift to like, gun violence in Chicago, which was like, you're pulling the kind of suburban mom thing that nobody wants to deal with. And then also, like you said, her running mate, what they thought, oh, well, Trump's an old white male, so we need another old white male. Let's just put this person on. But it wasn't like, it was just it felt very, very flat. It was more of the same. And yeah, Trump is awful and a Looney Tune. But at the same time, to his supporters, what he was bringing to the table supposedly was change. That's how they felt. They felt that things were going to shift under Trump. Obviously, we see how regressive Trump and his policies and Republicans generally are, but to their supporters, that looked like something new. Hillary didn't bring anything new to the table, and ultimately that's why she failed.
100%. Let me give a shout out to Cheryl Patrick in the chat, all one same, Clifford, Maxwell, and Steve. Day, go ahead, buddy. Oh, you're muted, buddy.
Yeah, picking up on your point, Amani, about the fact that one, Obama did come off a historic presidency. When you're the first person, you get a lot of leeway that unfortunately, like Kamala's not getting that Black leeway, and for good reason. But I said with Hillary, it's so interesting because as an outsider, it's so easy to see that as a first woman, she could have used that to her advantage, but her advantage should have been repudiating all the things that her husband did or the things that Obama did. Instead, she chose to own them as if they were her own. And I was like, if anybody was in the room with her and said, actually, this is why people are mad. This is why Trump is getting their attention. But when all you can see is racism, you stop yourself from having any deeper conversation. It's like, these people just voted for a Negro spiritual named Barack Hussein Obama. And you want to tell me that all of them are racist? Make that make sense. And if they had taken the time to realize why they were upset, you know how many people would have loved hearing her go in on her own husband that had been cheating on her? Like, we wanted you to go back that far and just read him for TMP, for all the different policies that he enacted. But you didn't do that when you had an opportunity. So I will never feel sympathy for Hillary Clinton. I hate all the things that Trump did. He's bad, et cetera, et cetera. I will never feel bad for her. She lost her own election.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that one. Let's go back to the rapid fire. I just want to show real quick. I'm just not even going to play the video. There was an anti-war rally in DC that happened, so I want to give them some love. That was a tweet. And then I want to go to, I'm curious, this is the latest headline from East Palestine, Ohio. It says levels of carcinogenic chemical near Ohio derailment site far above safe limit. And I think we already see, to me, and I watched a lot of mainstream media, it seems like this issue, East Palestine, is slowly getting out of the news cycle. And I'm really curious to see how much love in the end they get, especially as poor whites, as what the Democrats say, like mega citizens. But I love how Nina Turner put it, like, it doesn't matter who they are, it doesn't matter who they voted for. People are people, humans are humans, and they should get the help that they deserve, especially when it's no fault of themselves. So this is also, I want to show, this is a person that was in there. Shout out to Status Quo and Jordan Sheridan. It says weeks after East Palestine control burn, residents are experiencing rashes, nosebleeds, and other symptoms. And this person here said, my face was burning, but it didn't freak me out until I looked in the mirror. And as you can see on this side, like, just terrible rashes. And it's just horrible how they're being treated over there. All right. And then I'm not even going to play this video because we want to keep it moving, but I thought this was interesting. Bill Maher, this is a clip from Bill Maher's show, and he's just talking about all the people that was on Forbes magazine. You see, all these failed people that they were praised.
Look at America's.
They had SVB, and they touted them as America's best bank list last month. And we know the story with SBB, so I'm gonna keep it moving. And then this is Bethany Mandel, the woke person that couldn't define woke. Everybody's seen that viral video that is seen by over 10 million people, that she couldn't define woke, even though she wrote a book on wokeism. I just saw this tweet and I thought it was hilarious. She said, whether you're for or against masks, she put this out. This mask is like this after one day. Oh, let me show it. I wasn't showing it, but here's the mask. Look at Dave's face. She said, this mask is like this after one day. Now, I don't know about you guys. I've used masks before. After one day, I've never had a mask look like this.
She looked like she put that mask on her coochie. I'm sorry. Stop trying to fight us.
It's a family show, Dave. I was just messing.
I thought this was a family channel.
I used a different word. I'm sorry. Be for real.
No, just kidding. Look what the person put above here. Said the scientific data is in. Being a bigot rots your soul and causes demon level halitosis. So this is what happens when you're a racist and it rots your soul. It breathes out. It's just hilarious. I thought that was hilarious.
So I really need somebody to chime in and tell me what you could do to make a mask look like that. Like, I've
never seen.
She literally just had to have sneezed in it all day.
Yeah,
like
cough up in it.
And then didn't wipe her nose, just like
wipe your butt with it. I mean, that's just, come on, man. We all went through it. Yeah. We all went through it. We all wore masks, man. Ain't nobody took their mask off except for that girl in the video that picked up the dog poop and then put it back on. Like, that's the only explanation I got.
All right, let's go.
What videos are you watching?
You guys have not seen that? No. You did not see that video? This girl, oh my gosh, she's walking. It's like viral. She's walking along. She's walking her dog. It's a little dog. It ain't like a big German Shepherd. It's a little dog, and she picks.
I don't think that matters.
She uses her mask to pick up the poop and throw it in a garbage can, and then she puts her mask back on.
Yo, Johnny
is for the rapture. Like, we can go started. Like,
time for the rapture. Johnny, you're more online than me, man, and I'm out here putting up tweets all the time.
Well, I also got a kid and a roommate that are always coming up to me showing me TikTok. Oh, hey, look at this. This is funny.
It had to have been. I hope it was fake. I hope it was somebody trolling.
I want to go back to this one.
Really did look real.
For Armani, I think you wanted to say something about the Forbes magazine real quick. Let me go back to you.
Oh yeah, no, just that, like, going back to our conversation about the media before, a lot of times the reason people get those covers is because they have like PR firms or, like marketing representatives who have relations with those magazines, and they pitch them for the covers, or for, if you ever see those lists, like 40 under 40, 30 under 30, whatever, usually those folks they're pitched. It's not like the magazine sits down in a room and a bunch of people sit down and was like, oh, this person was influential. This person was influential. Yeah. People apply for it, or they get their PR people to like connect to the magazine. And that's how they get that. So again, it just goes to show, like, the way our media operates is not really on like a fair playing field when it comes to mainstream media. It's really just about who and the connections that you make, and the story you want to tell.
You remember Trump did that for himself as John Miller, right?
Oh yeah.
He's too cheap to pay a PR firm, so he calls up as somebody else. And, hey, this guy's really great. He's wonderful. He's tremendous. He's tremendous. I mean,
and also Byron, right? He called himself either, I think, Barron or something. He also called himself.
Yeah, that was trending today. Yeah.
All right, let's get to some of the meaty stories that I was promoting, and here's one of them. So we're going to talk about that first topic is elites being in a bubble. And at first I was going to call it like elites have no shame, but I don't know if that's being too nice to these guys. But let me play this first video, and you'll see what I mean.
But inflation that are then in poverty.
But is poverty even the same thing as it was when I was a kid? I feel like when I was poor, wow, I didn't have shit. You know, I mean, I didn't have really 2 nickels to rub against each other. And now everybody seems to have a cell phone. Nobody starves in America. The problem is the opposite.
I don't, first of all, I do not think it's fair to say that everyone in America, all of our children are getting enough to eat.
No,
and
that's probably true.
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right.
But there are places they can always go to get food.
Yeah, but this is the argument that people
and they
make.
Don't starve.
So they have a cell phone. How are you going to get a job today if you don't have a cell phone?
I'm just asking the question. I mean, it just seems standards do change. I'm just asking if they have.
It's different to be poor in 2023 than it was in the 70s or 80s, but a lot of the elements of a good middle class life are just getting more and more expensive. Housing, education, healthcare. Meanwhile, what Americans are getting paid, it stayed the same. Maybe it's inched up a little bit, but inflation's been eating that up. Our economy has become this winner-take-all inhuman mess. And it's why, unfortunately, I think we're grappling with some of the extremism that we are, because people are looking for answers. Meanwhile, what Americans are getting paid, it stayed the same. Maybe it's inched up a little bit, but inflation's been eating that up. Our economy has become this winner-take-all inhuman.
All right, played enough. That's why, as we see here, this governor signed free school lunch bill into law and in Minnesota. And Bill Maher is out here saying, "Oh, nobody needs lunch anymore." Then he wouldn't have to sign this into law if people were not hungry. And matter of fact, a lot of times when kids go to school, that's their only meal for the day, whether it's breakfast and whether it is lunch. I see you, Johnny. Let me see my order. And
I was just raising my hand saying that was my only meal going to school for most of my school age. But yeah, let Imani or Dave.
Yeah, go ahead, Imani. Let me go to Dave first. I believe Dave.
Are you good? Listen, I imagine Bill sitting in a room with somebody that might be 15, 20 years older than him, and him having a conversation like this. And they say, well, back in my day, we didn't even have a good sewage system. We had to spit outside and wipe it with leaves. Like, that's exactly what he sounds like. Nothing actually infuriates me more than entitled people who have never been down the street and had knocked on the door of the people who are less fortunate and actually asked them a question. Instead, what they do is they drive by their home, stick their nose up and say, I don't know why they don't get a better paying job so they can get out of these bad circumstances. I mean, all I had was a small loan of $1 million and I made it. And it's the audacity. When that lady said, that's actually not right, he said, oh, you're probably right. Then why the heck did you say it out of your mouth? Because unfortunately, people are bought into this idea that you're some intellectual superior because you get paid millions of dollars to spew nonsense. So when you say nonsense like that, had no one been there to catch it like that lady's mask was doing, then unfortunately that would have perpetuated and people would have been having conversations. Because if you look on the right, a lot of these people like Ben Shapiro, etc., they are pushing this propaganda as if poverty. It's like the same people who are saying birds aren't real are now saying poverty isn't real. And it's disgusting because you have so many children who literally are waking up traumatized and terrorized because they have to go to school in situations that aren't safe. They're getting crappy education because we don't fund our public schools. And now y'all have us want to take the one shining thing that, shout out to the Black Panther Party, that people were actually getting, which was free breakfast and maybe some free lunch. You literally want to starve kids and you have the audacity to say that you are the family of the working people. Be for real. You're not a family party. You're nothing. You're a fascist party. And unfortunately, that term can be applied to Democrats, Republicans, and everybody in between who would do something like this to children. That pisses me off. I'm sorry.
Woo! I love that fire, Dave. Love it. And I know you got her. That's your drop the mic moment. I'm going to you, Imani, next. That's Dave, drop the mic because I know you got to run.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
But before you leave, I just want to show you this real quick, and then I'm going to let you leave. So we're going to have a theme. There's a couple more, but I'm going to let Dave leave right after this, where Elon Musk put the retirement age in France is too low. That's a legit issue.
No, the issue is his taxes are too low, and he has all time to be sitting on Twitter saying stupid stuff like this and buying a company. I'm sorry. I don't have much sympathy today for these bubble elitists who get on the internet and opine about how hard it is to be everybody else in the world. Meanwhile, you literally can wake up, piss, and make $5 million. Something that a total of an entire probably where Johnny lives, the sum total of all the income that those people made for the next 12 years still wouldn't get them to what Elon Musk makes in a minute. And for a vanity project, he buys Twitter so he can get on there and say crap like that. So this is why people are leaving your company in drones and why nobody takes you seriously. Tax these people and actually give them a reason to get offline and do something better in the world.
Pew, 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 pew. I need Clues Berm.
Yes.
For Hot 97.
I'm sorry. Nothing makes me mad like this.
Nah, drop the mic. My man Day, much love to you. Gotta go check out his podcast.
Yes.
Call Me
Limbo Pod.
Check him out. Much love to you, Day. I'll see you later, buddy.
See y'all.
Adios.
Bye.
Yeah, much love. Love that guy. Oh man.
Good luck following that, Amani.
Go ahead. Yo, Amani, good luck. Oh shit.
Well, I was about to say, wow, I was that bad already.
My bad. That's my fault. Go ahead.
No, we're all good. No, I mean, I think basically today's theme is just like, media education for all your viewers. Like, I think Bill Maher knows what he's doing. I think that, he like for the longest time, he was just like railing on young people on his show. And I think he lost a lot of viewership. People are just like, I can't do the Islamophobia. I'm a young person who wants change. I can't do all of like your anger towards young people. Started watching other shows and he needed to become relevant again. So he decided to just become a right winger and just say outlandish things like this because he's not a dumb man. Like he knows that people starve in America. He's not a stupid man, but he needs to, again, get those views up so he can keep his show, so he can keep raking in however much they're paying him for that show. So I think he definitely knows what he's doing. And same with Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk every now and then puts out a tweet that he knows is going to get people riled up and he knows that he'll go viral on it and it'll help his brand at the end of the day. And like, these folks, like, I get that they say stuff, but sometimes the best thing to do with people like that is just ignore them. Like if Bill Maher went on this crazy rampage to the right the way he's doing and everyone just ignored him, eventually the network would say, hey, listen, you're not bringing in money. You got to go, buddy. You got to go. So I think sometimes we can just shut these people down by not listening to them at all. And, Elon Musk, that is what it is. I go back and forth every now and then about like, did he buy Twitter in order to like, because he's just egotistical, or did he buy Twitter because he's trying to actually, disrupt how much the left communicates on that app, and it's a very, very, serious app for communication, especially when we saw recently how like Cop City protests and other different protests weren't, getting as much viewership on Twitter as they have in the past. So to me, that shows me that he's doing something in the background with the algorithm that actually, disrupts that type of communication for the left. So I go back and forth as to whether this man is just a pure, egomaniac, or whether he's doing something more insidious. And actually it's a part of like a bigger strategy, especially since 2024 is coming up.
Yeah, I remember there was a story where he was saying that his tweets weren't getting as much attention, and he went to some of the engineers at Twitter, and he was like, "Hey, what's going on with my tweets? It's not getting as much attention." They're like, "Yeah, because people are losing interest in you," and he fired that guy. He fired that guy. So I think Amani, you're onto something where he might be putting this stuff out there just to try to get his interest up or get people to talk about him, and it's so unfortunate. Here's another clip right here. That a lot of people talked about this one already. I'm not even going to play it, but here's Ben Shapiro where he said school lunches are not going to solve the problem of child hunger at any serious level. Adding, he also said it does not take that much money to feed a child. Like, here's a guy that's making, I'm pretty sure he's probably a millionaire at this point. He's making a lot of money with his own podcast, very popular. He's got his own network actually. Yeah, he was trying to pay Crowder. Steven Crowder millions of dollars to join his podcast, so I know he's a millionaire.
50 million that he turned down.
50 million. Jeez. So I know this guy's a millionaire, and this is what he's saying. It does not take that much money to feed a child. Let me go to the chat and say what's up to my buddy Gamer for Life. Thanks for coming through, buddy. SG Steve, much love to y'all, Cheryl Patrick. And then I'm gonna actually play this clip right here for everyone.
Homeless encampments in liberal Los Angeles have a brand new amenity, working washing machines. Yes, it's true. Vagrants are setting up oversized tents and boasting about how they can steal water and electricity from the city in order to power their own street laundry service. And in California's other beleaguered liberal city, San Francisco, a widely criticized plan to build a single $1.7 million public toilet could be going down the drain. Governor Gavin Newsom threatening to withhold the funds because of the exorbitant price. Jesse's fiscal responsibility.
Yeah, that was a big primetime victory because we've been pushing hard against the toilet.
Yep,
it's going to be 3 years to complete a single stall.
I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but this was a clip of how they were complaining. They were complaining about how homeless are hooking up washing machines to power lines, and it's just disappointing how much these people, you know, they get into their cars that's driven by a driver, most likely drives them home. They get into a nice house and they got their washer and dryer, they got their amenities, and then they go home. And this is how they make a living, just trashing people who are barely getting by. And because the city is providing them a washing machine, this is something they actually took the time out when there's so much going on in this world to try to demonize these people. Here's the last clip that I have, and then I'll go to my panel and let you all say the last word on this before we move on to the next topic. This is the last. Boom.
Nothing of the recipient. Why? But you have to have some payback. You have to have some responsibility. For instance, my big beef with progressives is they demand nothing of the recipient. Why not sobriety? Why not drug abuse counseling? Why not getting yourself cleaned up? You know, you can't have anyone evolving out of that sorry condition unless you give them some responsibility.
But they don't want that. I mean, when I used to sentence someone, I would say to them, do you want to go to jail for a year, or do you want to go to rehab and straighten your life out? They'd rather go to jail so they can come out and do what they do and do what they like.
But
just another example of terrible. This is where I wish that I had someone, and I might have to look into this, someone that is really has a lot of experience with homeless shelters, because it's another world that even I feel, I'll admit for myself, I'll speak for myself, that even I'm in a bubble. I don't know anything about living in a shelter, staying there at night, living on the streets, you know, thank God, knock on wood. That's a whole nother world that I'm sure there's a lot of dangers. There's a lot of that. I need somebody with more experience to comment on that last video to let us know how people really feel. Before I move on, let me go to Imani. Go ahead, buddy.
Sometimes folks just talk and they just have no clue what they're talking about, because for him to say that progressives, I mean, it's true that progressives don't demand anything of the recipient, because simply by being human, it's your human right to be taken care of. But, you know, to then follow that up with, you know, they're not trying to get people into sobriety programs or, you know, to end their addiction, etc. Actually, plenty of progressives and drug policy advocates are very much trying to get those programs funded, very much trying to get those programs funded and implemented so we can help as many people who are suffering from addiction as possible. That's been something that's been going on literally for decades now. So it's just like he's just talking just to talk. And I think he really believed himself. It's just like, they're not trying to do this. Yes, they are. They've been trying to do it for decades. Both conservative Democrats and conservative Republicans won't fund the programs. So what do you want people to do? Everyone is advocating for it. Our electeds just will not put the funds there because they keep funding over militarized police.
Yep. Clifford Maxwell said, what next? Bring back debtors' prisons? I'm sure they definitely want to. PJ Chris said the Judge Weinbach still owes over $600,000 on her field campaign. So that's interesting. You always see hypocrisy among politicians and these people. It's just horrible. All right, we're going to move on to the French is having.
Can I say something?
I think Johnny wants to say something.
Thank you for jumping in. Go ahead.
In the recovery, 20 years in the recovery community, 16 years free from alcohol. I've been in and out of this entire community in Southeast Minnesota. I know recovery, and the problem, most of the problem with addiction is not the access to the drug, but the desperation that leads you to want to escapism. That's what, I mean, they actually did a study with rats, just real quickly. They put rats, gave them cocaine, and they got isolated in a cage. They got addicted to it very quickly, right? And I'm very shortening this story. Then they put them in a big play area. They made a cage with all kinds of toys and other rats and everything like that. And they made the drugs available, and they didn't get addicted. They would get addicted to the point of overdosing when they were alone. Afterwards, they hardly even focused on it. And this was a study that I went, that psychology was my gig, dude. And then I get into recovery, and it's all psychology. That's all recovery is. And the idea that we are allowing people to live on the streets and rely on the escapism of drugs to get away from their desperate life that we've created in this system, that's the problem. You know, not the fact that people want to smoke a joint or, you know, get addicted to drugs that are readily available. The whole approach here about helping people out and saying, well, we'll help you if you clean up. Well, you don't even have a system in place to clean them up. Like Amani was saying, you know, that's, we don't even have a healthcare system that takes care of people. I worked at a treatment center up through the pandemic, and I've got an inside look in how good ones are and bad ones are. And I'll tell you, we're just like schools, just like our healthcare, the treatment community and those facilities are understaffed, underpaid. I mean, I made $15 an hour, and I was dealing with people that were in there out of prison. You know?
Yeah. Not to mention people who are mentally challenged that end up on the streets.
That,
I mean, back around
there's a whole lot that goes in, not just the drug addiction, but just to focus, just to comment on that, because there's only a handful of reasons why somebody's homeless, right? Either they have mental health issues and they can't figure out what's going on with themselves and they need help there, or they've fallen off. And I mean, I've been homeless before. My mom was homeless when I was a kid, multiple times. You know, we lived in our car on a couple different occasions, and it's because she didn't have work. I mean, she didn't have money to pay for a place because there's rent. How do you not connect those things? Yeah. Right.
No, 100%. And we spent $7 trillion in Iraq, which we're gonna, hopefully we get to that. Oh, we got 9 minutes left. I was gonna add a video on the Iraq. We're up on the 20th anniversary of Iraq that we spent. Luckily, I mean, thankfully we're out of there now, but we spent $7 trillion is a number that I saw quoted over the last 20 years. In Afghanistan, they spent $2 trillion. It's just ridiculous the amount of money that we can come up with for war, but not for helping people in this country. But we're going to see about how we can rise up by taking a cue from the French, who is out there protesting right now. And I'm going to play a video about that situation right
now. Feeling confident about that right now.
What does this mean for Macron?
So let me set this up, because I want to go to this middle of this clip where it talks about the political ramifications for France. Macron's like some political problems that he's going to have for doing what he's doing. But just to let people know who do not know, in France right now, there's a huge uprising going on where the president of France used unilateral powers to increase the retirement age from 62 to 64. He did that without going through parliament. But because he did that, they're about to do a vote of no confidence. So it's going to be interesting to see if that goes through or what that vote, what the result of that vote will be. But let's talk about some of the ramifications that might come up
for the rest of his term, because
right now,
what does this mean for Macron for the rest of his term? Because it seems as though he's had greater opposition than he expected, and it must wound him, right?
I think that's right. I mean, I think that even if technically his government survives these 2 votes of no confidence, politically, the government and the president have been really badly wounded by this. it means that really, looking for the rest of his second term, he hasn't even been in office for one of those 5 years. It's going to be extremely difficult. There's a general debate here about whether or not, it's democratic to use this constitutional provision. It is constitutional, but is it politically legitimate? And that is going to make his time, I think, certainly in the next few months, and probably longer than that, extremely difficult. I mean, there's even a question about whether this government itself and the prime minister can survive in the short run.
All right. So let me put it there. But as we can see, Macron is using up a lot of political capital just to increase the retirement age to 2 years. And I've seen some people in the media, and even in this headline right here, it says fury in France over ... retirement reform. So you see how the framing is? It's like, oh, there's all this issues over retirement. Oh, those old people, we should just leave them alone. Why is everybody protesting? But I love the solidarity, because I'm sure you see young people, old people coming together in that country, and they're pushing to have that retirement age not change. So let me go to Johnny. What you think about this, buddy?
Well, 2 points. One, the reason it's a question is because we're like, trying to raise ours to 67, or what is it, 72, or who? I don't even.
67, they raised it.
I'm not even going to get retirement, dude. I'm 50. By the time they're just going to keep raising it before it even hits me, and so people are like 62. That's ridiculous, because they want people working from the time they can walk to the time they fall down. And that's it. They don't care. Just put your ass in a Walmart store as a greeter and put you in a cart. They don't even care if you can stand anymore. Just put somebody there and make them work, And you see they're rolling back child labor laws and everything here. So the question and the framing is because, can you believe how good the French think they should have it? That's one issue, like the spoiled French. And then the issue on Macron, there's massive protests, bigger than what we see around here. I mean, maybe as big as what we saw in 2020 over George Floyd, right? And it's evident that the people themselves are saying no. Like, we elected all you. There's only 60. What's the population of France? There's 67 million people, right? So it's not that big, and you got all these people in the streets. It's like I said, it's double the size of one of our states, and these people are coming together and they're saying, look, you're not listening to us. They don't even have as many people in office as we do, and they're like, no, and they're like, oh, we're going to do it anyway. There's a deeper discussion that I won't go into, but we'll have to talk about some other time. And the fact that the reason they're having problems funding, or at least explaining the funding, is because France belongs to the European Union and they don't have their own sovereign currency anymore. So now they have to go to a council of other people they're sharing their currency with and say, hey, open the central bank and give us money to pay our Social Security. Because a sovereign government, as we've discussed before, can just write the checks. They don't have to pull the money in from anywhere. We know MMT. We know that the government can just write Social Security checks. Alan Greenspan said it. But the problem with France is they're part of the European Union. That expenditure has to be approved by the European Council.
Got you. So because we're talking about this, I'm going to bring a little bit of hope as we end in this last 2 minutes. Give you all some hope on our way out of here.
Shut down tomorrow. The second largest school district in the nation could be shut down tomorrow if school workers in Los Angeles begin a 3-day strike as planned.
So the union representing cafeteria workers, bus drivers, custodians, and teachers' aides is calling for pay raises, more full-time work, and respectful treatment.
CNN's Camila Bernal joins us now live from Los Angeles. Camila, teachers say they will not cross the picket line. So what might happen tomorrow and how many students could be affected?
John, Erica, good morning. Well,
schools will likely be closed tomorrow. That's what might happen. And it's because you can't necessarily open a school without the bus drivers and the custodians, but you really can't open schools without the teachers who are joining in solidarity. And there's more than 500,000 students here in Los Angeles County that will be impacted. This is the second largest school district in the nation, and both sides say that this will have implications all across the U.S. The superintendent saying whatever comes out of this agreement is going to be historic in the amount of money that these workers will make, and the union is saying that this is going to be extremely important and should be a wake-up call for elected officials all over the country to invest in education. Now, what's interesting here is that the union says that this strike in particular is not about the money. They say this is about how some of its members have been treated after they started asking for that money. Now, we talked to both sides, and here's what they're saying.
Some have been harassed to the point where they've lost their job, they've lost income, and we have not been presented with compelling evidence that there's widespread abuses. Are there issues? Yes. Each one of them is vigorously investigated.
And look, the school district doing everything it can to keep these schools open. They went to a state labor board saying that this strike is likely illegal. We're waiting for a decision from the board, but in the meantime, they're preparing for schools to close. The superintendent says he's very worried about how harmful this could be for students who need to be in the classroom, who maybe need school lunches. But the union says, look, they understand and they are concerned about the students as well, but they're going to continue to push for what they believe is fair. Now, of course, this whole situation leaves thousands of parents here in Los Angeles County trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do with their children this week. Erica, John.
Yeah, a big struggle for a lot of families. Camilla Burnell, thank you very much.
See how they sneaked in that big struggle for families. But during COVID, I'll be honest, I didn't see any, what are the families going to do with all the kids being at home? And a lot of the family have to go to work. What are they going to do? Are the jobs going to provide childcare, universal childcare, which the majority of Democrats are trying to provide free childcare before Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema came in and wrecked that. But it's good to see a strike in America with a large amount of people and a robust, it looks like very vibrant. I'm very curious to see what happens with that. But let me go to Imani. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, every time teachers strike, they always bring up, well, what about the kids? What about the kids? Well, what about the kids when their teacher is overwhelmed, overworked, and underpaid? Then what about the kids then? Then the kids are getting a horrible experience because you have a teacher that really can't give them the attention they need, teach them the way they need to be teaching them, is probably tired and just kind of just lets them do whatever, or says, you know what, today I'm just going to roll in that TV. You know, I don't know if they do it that way. They might have projectors or something now, but you know, they used to roll in the TV. It's like, you guys just watch a video today, right? Like, what about the kids in that sense? So like, yeah, sure, we all care about the kids, but in order to take care of the kids, you got to take care of the teachers. So then the kids can get the best education that is available. So they always do that every single time. It's like, well, what about the kids? Well, yeah, like, what about them? Pay the teachers so the teachers can give them, the kids, the best that they have to offer.
100%. Johnny, you got something to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, my roommate is a Teamster who works at the Rochester School District. He's not a teacher. He's maintenance, so he would be, I guess, one of the people that would be striking in this instance, and the teachers supporting him. But the point where he says that they're trying to sue to say that the strike is illegal, I need people to write this down, make a note. The Taft-Hartley Act, look it up. It's why unions today have no teeth. It's why unions don't come together in a mass general strike. You won't get them signing a general strike card because it's literally against the law. And until we change that law, which is something that you'll probably talk to Shwama about, that's one of the things you have to do to strengthen unions is to change that law. You're going to get this where there's no teeth to the move. Even the unions themselves have to beg for permission to enforce their power as workers. And it's very frustrating. It's good to see that they're coming together. The more people that come together, now you need the airline attendants, and all the unions need to strike on their own because they can't do it together at the same time.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we might have to talk about wildcat strikes. I mean, we might have to go illegal and do what we have to do to make change in this country, because we see that France is doing it. And let me go to Armand before we end the show.
Yeah, look, sometimes when a law is unjust, you have to break it, because then what are they going to do? Oh, you broke the law. And again, I will also say, I'm saying that as somebody who is not striking, who's not putting their job and all of that on the line. But I say that to say, sometimes laws are unjust. Like, look at the civil rights movement when people, broke the law about going into whites only spaces, right? Sometimes those laws have to be broken. And I think that, our movement has gotten a little bit gun shy, I guess, about doing certain things where it's like, so what? We're right. So what? We are in the right and we're going to win. Oh, there's a law. Funny. We're going to do it anyway. Right. And I think we have to find that courage somewhere. And again, I'm speaking as somebody who's not a part of that. So, please don't take this as me coming at anybody there. But I think movement wise, and whether that's striking or something else, sometimes if a law is bogus, you break it and then you say, well, what now?
Yeah, no, I
totally agree. Totally 100%.
Agree. I know when Biden moved, we see Congress move slow as molasses when it comes to passing, the Build Back Better, which, like I just said, that had universal child care along with a lot of other benefits that would have benefited the people. When it comes to police reform, the George Floyd Act, when it came to different things that the people needed, Congress was slow as molasses. But when they needed to stop the railroad strikers, the railroad workers from going on strike, Biden said, hey, Congress, Nancy Pelosi, who was speaker at the time, I need this in 3 days. Boom! He got that, and he was able to stop the railroad workers from striking.
War funding.
Yeah.
That don't take no time. We don't even know what's happening. It's like, tomorrow they just they just approved another $27 billion for Ukraine.
Yeah,
what? They didn't even talk about it. What? Yeah. They didn't even have a floor vote. What happened? They just signed a check. What happened? Yeah.
For things that do not benefit the working class, the people,
bipartisan support always.
It's just ridiculous. So, thank you all for coming to the show. Let me give. Sangster, thanks for coming through.
Mastermind. Oh, sorry, you're going in and out, Kate. Say it one more time. I don't think anybody heard you.
Can you hear the music? Maybe the music is too loud. Let me lower down the music. Trying out this thing for the first time. There we go. Is it a little lower? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Armani. So let me give a shout out to everybody. Mastermind, all one same. Bryce Smith, much love. We're Program, much love to you. SG, Tina, thank you for coming through. Bruce Jackson, Cheryl Patrick, Paul Patrick, PJ Chris, Gamer for Life. Everybody, hope I didn't miss anybody, but much love to y'all. Let me give a shout out. I haven't done it in a little while to my Patreon. Nancy Ventura, Pedro Hernandez, Deborah B, PJ Chris, Akibasha Kita, Zachary Guston. Thank you so much for coming through. And I want to give love to my panel. Johnny, his second time, and he came with fire. They who left, but he came with the fire right at the end. Armani, let me give y'all the last word. Let me be a gentleman. Ladies first. Armani, give us the outro.
Thank you for having me. As always, it's always a bunch of fun. Johnny, wonderful meeting you. I love the collaboration we did today. If anybody in the audience wants to keep up with me, you can follow me on all social media. My first name, Imani, last name, NJ, as in New Jersey, 10. So Imani Oakley, NJ10 on all social media. Thank you again for having me. It's always great.
Always great to have you, buddy. Johnny.
Hey, man, you know where to find me. Just find my name. It's pretty much the same everywhere. Usually around Twitter if you want to catch me. And I might be coming out with a show called Unconditioned where we're going to talk about breaking down the media propaganda over the last century and how everybody is conditioned based on what they're being fed through all the things we're talking about. It creates a conditioning that people don't even realize that's happening to them, So I appreciate coming on again. It was fun. Amani, it was awesome meeting you. I think you're pretty cool. So
I only have the best people on this show. Only the best.
True.
But tomorrow, 8:15, come through as I interview Shama Sawant. Going to try to ask her some questions nobody's asked her. And we're going to talk about my favorite topic, political strategy, progressive strategy. How can we do things that is not the norm that's already being done? How can we do something different? I think Workers Strike Back is that thing that we need. And I'm going to talk to her about that tomorrow. We're going to find out more about it. So thank you all. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, here with me. And I appreciate that. Everybody, y'all have a great one. Adios.
Good night.